to The Courageous Choice, the podcast where we explore the moments that shape leaders, organizations, and the future of work. Today's guest is someone who has spent decades at the intersection of talent, technology, and transformation. William Tincup is a globally recognized HR analyst, advisor, speaker, and one of the most influential voices helping organizations understand what's coming next. But what makes William's perspective so valuable isn't just his ability to spot trends before they happen. It's his willingness to challenge assumptions, ask uncomfortable questions, and rethink the way we've always done things. In a world being reshaped by AI, shifting workforce expectations, and unprecedented change, courage isn't just about making bold decisions. Sometimes it's about being willing to let go of old ideas, embrace uncertainty, and imagine a different future. In this conversation, William and I explore what leaders need to understand about the changing world of work, the opportunities and risks, and the courageous choices organizations can make when they want to thrive in what's next. Let's get into it. You've described yourself as harsh but fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And clearly you have no problem being direct, which is awesome. But
Right.
what do you think, we're kind of in a world where a lot of people are just trying to be liked. Where do you think it came from for you, and what advice do you have for others?
Never really cared about being liked. If you're asking me for my advice, or if you're asking me what I think, I stop. And so I think if you really want to help somebody, you can help them. Like I said, as a society, we spend too much time trying to help people when they're not really looking for help. It's only at the moment in which a human really, really wants that help. But we waste time giving people feedback when they're not ready. They'll act like they're ready. Not ready. They're not ready for your feedback.
We learned that
So
with our kids, right? Like we can't care more than they do, so they have to want it.
try,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's true, and it's in leadership and in HR, it's like we're trying to solve. A lot of us are problem solvers.
yeah.
Um, sometimes it's not our problem to solve. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Sometimes you know, I think it's one of those bits. You got to be there when they're ready. So it's all like being there, always ready to give people great life advice, work advice when the moment is right for them. So if the just-in-time JIT, just-in-time movement in manufacturing years ago, it's like we just have to be ready. And at that moment, it's like, hey man, work is like I don't get AI. I get it on some level, but I don't get how people are used. It's like, and you can just tell there's desperation. Like they really, really want to know. You have the opportunity to actually change a life. It's just they've got to be ready. It doesn't matter if you're ready. You've got
That's
to be
interesting. Yeah, thinking about, because we're talking a ton about transformation, and
right.
so many people have come to me talking about fear of being obsolete, or just fears related to it. And
Right.
that you can think about a change curve and all the things, but that's pretty interesting in that context of readiness. So how do you, like, we still, if you
Transformation.
think about changing and it's a large organization, you got to manage through it. There's a certain amount of just creating the container, but I guess people are going to
So,
come to that point on their own.
well, or are they?
Yeah.
So, um, I think when I was doing a lot of implementation and user adoption consulting, I'd always start negative because this is not a one and done. This isn't a 6-month thing. This is a life change. Like, are you ready to make a life change for the 30,000 employees or whatever you're dealing with? So, are you ready for this transformation? And they'll shake their head and say yes. And then I just want to shoot holes in it. I just want to shoot holes in, are you really ready for this? It is massive chaos. It is massive change. And there is a person on the planet that loves change. There are some people that can consume it at a higher rate and a more enjoyment, but no one loves change.
You
So
talk to so many people. Have you seen anybody doing it well? Other
yes, one example comes to mind. It was a Bombardier, the company that makes planes.
Mhm.
They rolled out success factors a year in advance. So they bought it and then went through all the change management. So they told all the employees, hey, this is coming. It's going to be exciting. They programmed everything and got all their processes down, got all their managers trained, got all the employees trained. And then they celebrated it with a big party. a year after buying the software. So they did all the change management and got everyone excited. So it's training and education and communications and like, why are we doing this? Like all that stuff. They kept reiterating why they're doing it, why it makes sense for the business, how it's important for everyone involved. Well, it's not just a way for management to kind of hold you accountable. It's something where you can actually put in your goals and you hold yourself accountable. And so it was a great rollout. It was a really, really great rollout. But that team, they had an internal change management team, and that team got into the software and played with it and tried different things for a year and then decided, yeah, let's bring everyone else into this. And I think it's that old thing about project management. Double the timeline and triple the budget. That bit. It's change management is it's I think people associate it with a begin because consultants have set up a framework of a beginning, a middle, an end, and go live. And this is not that. This is not. This is continuous learning and
Totally
continuous.
iterative.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you create and creating that normal? It's almost like setting the new expectation that change is continuous and it just needs to be normal. So we need to create processes, for the feedback,
That's right.
for the learning. And what's so interesting right now, I'm noticing across organizations, you've got people moving at different paces, right? Like some early adopters playing with
Right.
AI, for example, and coming up with things. And which is awesome because you want to activate, but the power is going to be, how do you align that? How do you look at it at an enterprise level? How do you create the right containers? Because there's this, I mean, I can even see it in smaller organizations where it can easily become waste. You've either got
Oh
a
yeah.
ton of duplication, you've got, or, I get excited. I've gone down the rabbit hole for 4 hours and built something really cool that never actually
Right.
lived beyond that time. So then that was really a time suck, not a time, value add.
Well, now you relabel that in your brain as that was a class.
Right.
I was just taking a independent study,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That's how you rationalize it, and justify the time. I think the thing with AI adoption that we're getting wrong right now is we're thinking of AI adoption in the terms of SaaS technology. So with SaaS technology, you could look at consumption or usage or when people logged in last, and like you could tell if people were using the software. With AI adoption, and again, there was kind of you could get people to adopt, let's say 80% of the feature set, and they're in it every day, and like you could tell, okay, they've adopted the software, they're using it. Um, AI adoption is not that. We can't use the same metrics. We can't think of it the same. And to your point, there's 7 different people on a team. They're using 7 different tools, doing 9 different things. And is it aligned with the business outcomes? Is it aligned with the business interests?
Exactly.
Is it aligned? So we're going to make a lot of mistakes. But I think if we couch those in terms of, hey, this is just training. This is education. You're just learning. Like, you pop open Claude and you code something for the first time. You download Git software. You set up a GitHub account and you code something for the first time by just talking to it, and it codes it for you. Like that's a class. Like that's an experience. That's something that you learned. Do you need it to work? Do you need it to go live? Do you need other people to see it? No, no, no. It's just I think we need to forgive ourselves a little bit of leeway, especially now. But I think this is going to be one of those things that ongoing, we'll give ourselves less and less leeway.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll think about how do we make it scalable?
Right,
But right now, to your point, like that class, if all that class did was give me some confidence or eliminate
right.
some fear, then it was valuable, right? Like,
It's exactly. I can't remember who said it, but all experiences, bad or good, all experiences can inform if you allow them.
what are the biggest? I mean, I find it like there's an opportunity here because you talk to so many people, so many
Sure.
founders and leaders and things. Like, I don't know. Have you thought about what the common, I don't know, mistakes that they make?
Sure. Sure. Ego. Uh, so think of so now in your mind and for the audience as you think about this and listen to this, startup is a band. Folks, think of all your favorite bands, Flaming Lips, Rolling Stones, whatever you're into. Like I'm into hip hop. Like, okay, think of your favorite bands and now think about how they fell off. Okay, so they got really rich and then all of a sudden there was no motivation to like innovate or do something new or whatever. Or they, got really rich and then make a bunch of poor personal decisions. Okay. Or they just ego. You got a Grammy and it's like, whose Grammy is it? Is it my Grammy? Well, I wrote the song. Well, okay, but we all
I'm the front man or whatever.
right. And so bands fall apart, for a lot of reasons, legit. But what I've found is it falls apart because of ego. The person isn't humble enough to go, we did this. The success that we've had is because of all of us. And maybe you towed a lot of, a lot of line. And maybe my input wasn't as much as yours, so it doesn't have to be equal. And so when there's success, what happens when success happens? It's like when you talk to single people and they're getting married. It's like you have to do the worst case scenario. You literally have to say, okay, what happens when we don't see eye to eye? What happens when we get divorced? Like, think that thought when you're young and you're getting married so that you can avoid it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
No, it's definitely a recipe, right? When you think about success, it
Yeah.
was the recipe. Talking about that, you've had a practice with partners and other people kind of asking like, what is it that I'm doing that's pissing you off?
So, like, one of the things I tell partners in law, partners in tech, partners or whatever, but if you're partners, go away once a year. It doesn't matter where you go. You can go to a state park. You can just get away from work. No electronics, none of that stuff, and just talk. And get on each other's page, catch up with each other's lives because it's hard to do when you're in the thick of things. And I think it's a great best practice, if you will, of asking once a year at least, if you can, or frequently, what am I doing that's pissing you off? And every time I've asked that question of a business partner, it's always been something that it wasn't on my radar.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
creating the space I think is super interesting because we're doing, right? Like we're going and we're forward looking, we're strategizing, all these things, and you forget
right?
to like just make that connection and create the space for them.
I also think that this is organizationally like your team. When you set out your goals for the next year, your initiatives, let's say, you can only really do like two or three big initiatives, and you might not even be able to do those well. Um, Coming to grips with what those are, and then communicating them to the team you know, in a public way, and then calling each person in. If you're in an office, great, do it in an office. If you Zoom, whatever, and it's like, here's what we're going to do next year. Are you on board? Like, is this what you want to do? Every time I've done that, without fail, I've lost somebody. Every time. Because your vision and your goals for your company are not necessarily interesting to everyone. And we don't ask. We just would like, you get a paycheck. Yeah, we assume. And so I think it's just as important when you give your partners that space to then tell you what you're doing wrong or what pisses them off. That might be wrong or right, but just what pisses them off. I think it's also important to get your team on board with whatever that mission is next year or that quarter or whatever, time frame's not important, but it's like getting them on board and having a private conversation with them and going, hey, this is what we're going to do. Are you are you jazzed? Are you interested? And they'll tell you, nah, I kind of like what we did last year, but like that doesn't seem as interesting. It's like, okay, cool.
I mean, that you really want to know, right? Like I think that that's the thing that we've like, I don't know. We have a lot of clients where the leadership team has spent hours and days and whatever
Oh
coming
yeah,
up with some brilliant strategy, and then they wonder why, like it's not activating in the organization, right? And
because they didn't ask.
yeah, they didn't ask.
Well, and the thing is be wary of what you ask for, because your team could come back and go, yeah, I think that's horseshit. Like, and that's now it's okay. Now let me consume that as an executive or as a leader. It's like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe it is horseshit. Maybe we created a bunch of things that were unrealistic, and we're
Or we
trying to
were
get our.
missing we just didn't have all the components, right? We weren't
That's right.
close enough to the work. Yeah.
That's right. So I think it's important to do that and give them that space to then go, I'm excited. This is fantastic because there's going to be the high points and low points during those initiatives. That's just inevitable. We used to call it in implementations the inevitable disaster. There's always a moment where shit just goes sideways. It's not anybody's fault. It was unforeseen. And so how do you deal with that? And if you're dealing with a bunch of people that are really jazzed or really excited about what you're doing, they bounce back pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it ties back to like our conversation around transformation right now. I think that iterative process is about co-creation, collective experimentation, and the way you engage people in it is to invite them to be part of it, right? And
right.
and the truth is nobody's got all the answers. So like
Nope.
uh, this kind of it's like democratizing kind
Yeah.
of both where the innovation and reimagination can come
I
from.
I think leaders need to create the straw man. I think leaders need to do that. So I think leadership, if you're a leader, you're a founder, you're an executive, etc., I think it is part of your duty to create that vision, that straw man of what you'd like to achieve. But I think before you put too much meat on the bone, I think you need to get buy-in. And I think it's really important, especially if we're doing less with or more with less and less employees. I think it's really important. And the onus is on leaders to then go out and ask, say, hey, this is the vision. This is the reasons. Here is the logic. Here is the thing. Like, here's why this is why it's important. This is that and the other. And get people to go, yeah, done. Cool. I'm in. And now you can do something. And then if shit not when shit goes sideways, they'll be okay. You don't have to worry about them.
No, you just make another decision, right?
Sorry.
But everybody will understand because they can
Sorry.
see A to Z. So what being in your shoes right now with the
Mm.
changes in tech, everyone kind of feels a little wild west. Everyone's got a solution and a tool, and yet then you hear things like SaaS is going away, it's changing fundamentally, all these things. What's it like from your perspective, and how are you thinking about it?
I think the marketing hype, sales hype, has always been 4 to 6 years ahead of what actual practitioners can consume and do. And so I think for the practitioners, it's just being more grounded and understanding what your organization really can consume. And so it isn't whether or not the demo was cool or whether or not the salesperson was really, really great. Those are givens. If you're a salesperson in our industry and you can't do a demo and you're not dynamic, you should probably not be in sales. That's period. So I think it's being grounded enough to go, that's great. Is it great for us right now at this particular time? And I think the person that runs global TA for Ford, her name's Melissa. She's a wonderful woman. And so, like, I remember asking her a couple of years ago, I'm like, what technology are you looking at? She's like, I'm not looking at shit because we're going through a CRM, transformation. I got to get that right. When that's right and everybody's, feels like we got it done, then I'll start looking at other things. And it's like she knew herself well enough to know, knew the organization well enough to know, like, I don't need to waste time looking at a bunch of stuff that it has no chance. It has no chance of making it at Ford at that particular moment. No, 6 months later or a year later, right person, right time, all that those things line up. So I think,
Yeah, it's like she knew she needed to know her business.
right.
She needed to have a strategy. And then it's really I mean, these are kind of old fundamentals, but around like
Yeah.
focus and execution. That doesn't mean you don't keep an eye on the landscape to know what's going
Yeah.
on. And maybe those 6 months later, something, you circle back or whatever. But
100%.
yeah,
Well, it was at a recruiting conference, so we talked about it. It was at a ERE. And so like she was still looking, she was speaking, but she was still going, walking the vendor hall and looking at stuff. So it's not like she wasn't looking,
right.
but she would tell the people up front, I'm not engaging on a sales. So you can enter my information, email me in 6 months or
Yeah.
get back with me in 9 months because I got to do this right first. And I think that's the advice I would give practitioners is just become more comfortable with what you as an individual, your department, your team, and your employee population, what can they consume right now? And try not to put more stuff on in there just because other people are doing it. Like Tony Hsieh wrote a book, Zappos,
Hmm.
and I mean, the failure of that book is at most because he got out on the circuit in HR and everyone wanted to be like Zappos. I'm like, it's the fucking worst idea ever because that was a unique culture for that time with that particular team and in that market, and it worked good. That has nothing to do with you. You can read it as something that's inspirational, like, wow, this is really cool. You can actually align these things and make this type of thing work. Their desk, him and his co-founder, their desks were out in the middle of the floor. So everyone could walk by and say, hey, Tony, got a quick question. Wanted to ask you about this. They liked that. They fed off of that. But not every executive likes that. You know,
Yeah.
not every manager likes that.
I was the
So,
head of HR when that was on the circuit. And
oh,
what I love about something like that is the prompt for people to think differently, right?
right,
Like,
right.
so, oh, I could really blow up our whole like hierarchy structure, and I could really rethink like what it means to be a leader, and I could really be intentional about our culture. That doesn't mean copy and paste, right?
That's right.
Like,
That's exactly right.
yeah.
And so many people read it with a copy and paste mentality because they had the pain and they thought like, okay, this is the solution to my pain, and it's not
Yeah.
because it's that moment in time, that culture, those executives, those initiatives. Like there's so many things that kind of come into play that will make that successful. And so copying and pasting somebody else's approach to culture never works.
We're having so much fun right now because people like me who, once I kind of got further in my career, it was like my attention span became like 2 or 3 years because it was about change, transformation, growth, do the thing. And
Right.
right. And so now the gig talent, we've got, I don't know, about 100, I call them executive entrepreneurs. And it's like our time because it's this opportunity to help companies ask that question around what is right for us right now. Have you, I'm
Right.
sure you've done like a futurist activity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like this, let go of any constraints that you have right now. They're real. I get it, but like, let them go.
I don't believe in futurism, so I'll
Yeah.
just say what the obvious thing. I don't think anyone knows the future. The way we used to frame it is current state, future state.
Yeah.
What would we like to look like in 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever the
But I think
time
being
frame?
able to think without like, yes, there are the current, so eventually you have to look at that. But I think
Yes,
especially when you're thinking about potential transformation with AI,
right,
like, because people can't really even comprehend what's possible. And for sure, none of us really know what's possible or what's going to happen, but like,
right,
even to just blow your mind a little bit and see what is even possible today,
100%.
so I think that's a really
I, th-
powerful activity
I think
to start
that
thinking
safe
about.
space of
Yes.
letting people off the reins and go throw away your laptop for a moment and just I did this webinar a while back, and it was on um, voice as the new interface. And so an engineer for a company called Ramco had moved his engineering team to Singapore from India, and he said, "You can't use computers, can't use your phone. How do you get things done?" And it was all working through Siri or Alexa or whatever to then be able to get things done. And that's what he was trying to prove to the team is like, you need to think of a world where the screen isn't the game. So,
Yeah.
and
Talk
this
about
is,
UX.
yeah,
UX and that. Yeah.
this was like 10 years ago.
That's cool.
So I think that allowing your team that opportunity, that safe space of going, yeah, Billy Bean had a phrase, I think in Moneyball, where he said it. If we weren't already doing it this way, how would we do it?
Right.
which gives everyone the freedom to then go, okay, I don't have to think of Susie's onboarding process or
That's exactly it.
Jan's, sourcing strategy. Okay, great. I can actually think of it as a blank screen or a white screen and come up with something new. And and then pressure test it.
That's
Have
right.
everyone critique it. Like I think we've gotten afraid of critique as a society. And if you grew up in the humanities, like I have an art history degree, an art studio degree, and so like I had to go up and pin my work up in front of 40 other kids, and they would tell me what was good or what was bad about what I was putting in front of them. That's a good thing. And I think that's one of the things we don't do in culture enough is just going, okay, think whatever you want to thought, and then now pitch it. Tell us why you think it's a good idea. Then get the critique
And
and
want the critique, like,
and
because we're going
want
to get to a better decision, right?
want desire that critique,
Yeah.
desire the both positive and negative, but desire that critique. And so I think the more companies do that, especially before transformation, before they even kind of go down the path of transformation, it's like you don't need to be in a rush.
Exactly.
You need to. This is methodical. And you
Well,
got to have everybody rowing.
yeah, your Bombardier experience example is a really good one, right? About don't be in a rush, know where you want to go, do the
yeah,
planning,
yeah. Do the
you know,
work
do the work.
and create those spaces for people so that they can come up with ideas that even you know change things a little bit, but change things for the better for everybody. And so it's a little bitty tiny change, and you look at it, you're like, and all of a sudden it's something that's really means something to a lot of people. Like it's okay. And I think you're right when you say, not everybody's got all the answers, and not everybody's got all the good ideas and things like that. That's meritocracy. A good idea can come from anywhere, and usually does if you allow it. When the board and the C-suite go off and they come up with the new culture, the new words that define their culture, I'm skeptical because I just think they sit around with thesauruses and look at what words that mean something.
I've been in some of those rooms. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they're like integrity. I'm like, well, do we actually operate with integrity?
Right.
Like I pressure test that. Like, do you pay your vendors in less than 30 days? Okay. If you don't, you're not operating with integrity because that's called in vendor financing. The vendors are financing your business.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm harsh again when it comes to that. It's like if you say integrity, you better operate with integrity. Everywhere, the
I think
entire
that
value
this,
exchange.
I think this is super powerful. Actually, I was just talking to a friend about this. Um, we come in, people like you and I come in, and we're not part of the system,
Right.
and we're wired to be direct. And quite frankly, they're usually asking us to do
Right.
that. So, but I always get good feedback around like, oh, you really asked us the questions that needed to be blah, blah, blah. And what makes me sad about it is like, that's great. And that's sometimes a really good place for an external resource. But what I would hope is that the executives in the company or on the team would be asking those tough questions. And I, it's
Ooh,
hard when they're
you're
part of the
scratching.
system.
You're
Yeah.
scratching a very interesting itch.
Okay. Let's go there.
Um, the reason that innovation is so difficult internally is because people have mortgages.
Yep.
They have kids in private school. They have
Fear.
cars. They have all that
Reality.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? A great marketing idea should should terrify you. That's how you know it's a great marketing idea. Initially, it's the hairs on your neck should like oh shit, I could get fired over this. Internally, they can't do that. Very few people can do that because they're making $400,000 a year. They've got a great house, a great life, a great this, that, and the other, and the risk is not. It's what the colloquialism, the squeeze is the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
And so outside forces are meant to do that. Come in, create the great crazy idea, and then everyone go, okay, let's do that. And Brad or Helen didn't have to risk their careers on it.
Right.
So I think innovation doesn't happen because we don't incentivize people to come up with crazy ideas. Like if you have an executive team, they're like, we won't fire you. In fact, if you have a crazy idea, we'll give you another 50K.
Yeah.
So we get what we incentivize.
I was talking about it with a CHRO recently, and so I have a lot of friends who are like on the tail end, right? They're kind of like, I'm
Right.
retiring in the next whatever.
Yeah. It's just one out.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
one
and they're
out.
in this, they call it like, I'm in this fearless space. Like, so
Yeah.
now they're like, you know what, fire me. Right. So
Yeah.
so
Go
the
ahead.
fear is gone. They financially, whatever, they're okay. They're working because they want to, but
And
they're
they're
not,
innovating left and right.
yeah, they're innovating left and right. They're pushing people. They're developing
Yep.
people. They're really doing brilliant things and having huge impact. And so the question was, how can we, like, I don't know, create the space or the permission and the skills within the generations coming up behind us to not wait till you're like, 53 or whatever they are,
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
You
and
you you
and I
you
think it's that tension what we were talking about, like the reality of their,
you get
paying
what
their bills.
you get what you incentivize. And in the business world, that translates to you put your money behind incentives for people to do the things that you want them to do. And if you don't, they won't. Like,
Right.
people will argue with me about money's not the only
It's
motivator.
the same reason that they don't want to screw up the quarterly performance or the annual
That's right.
performance, or their,
That's right.
they don't want to rock the boat because they're incentivized not to.
That's right. So I think if you can get with your executives and create that basically that environment that says we want this, we want innovation. Career Builder 100 years ago, they used to do this bit where they would put $5 million into an idea and they let it open it up to every employee. And so it became an internal business case competition. And then they'd get it down to three, and the executives would weigh in, the board, everybody was taking turns, and all of a sudden they'd come down to one idea, and they'd give that person 5 million, I think it
To fund
was,
it.
to fund the idea.
Yeah.
And then they take an equity stake, and then you could still work a Career Builder, but they give you space or whatever the bit was. But it was like we should do that more.
Yeah,
Like
there's companies doing, like, we have a friend doing like Shark Tank
yeah,
internally for AI ideas, and so
put
that's awesome.
put put money behind it.
Yeah.
If you really want people to try, like if you just want to roll it out and you really don't want it to go anywhere, don't put money behind it.
Yeah.
But if you put money behind it, people will actually um, they'll actually think about it. They'll actually take their time and they'll actually put some good, crazy ideas together for it. And, because you've incentivized them to do that.
I love it. All right, a final question for you.
Sure.
What are you doing now that scares you?
Oh, it's what I'm not doing that scares me. I think, and I don't think I'm alone. I feel like the world is passing me by. And I think that's that feeling of being in water and not being able to stay afloat. And it's like, how do you stay afloat? Well, because things are moving so fast, I fear that I'm not keeping up with all the things I need to be keeping up with. I'm not doing enough. And so that fear is real. And I think a lot of people are going through that.
Yeah.
I'm not enough in the know with what's going on. And I'm not pushing myself hard enough to know. And I think that happens sometimes when you get a little bit older or you have a little bit more experience. And it's not laziness. It's just you get comfortable and you're not pushing yourself like you did on the ascent of your career. And so that would be the thing would be keeping me up is like I should be pushing myself harder.
Mhm.
And so it's got to touch you. So this AI stuff, it's got to touch you. And so you for me, it's like, okay, I've got a business partner that loves this type of stuff. Like he always has loved this type of bleeding edge technology. and whether or not it was SaaS back in the day or whatever, but always was bleeding edge. I've never really loved bleeding edge. I've never really, that's not really been my bit, but this is different because it's moving so fast. I feel like it's moving way faster than I can keep up with.
Yeah.
And getting comfortable with the ground beneath my feet shifting. When you look at it from a cosmos perspective, we're spinning. Our planet is spinning. As we're talking right now, we're spinning at a 22 degree angle. We're spinning. And we're spinning, we're going around the sun, the moon's going around us. Okay, so like once you settle into the physics, that you just got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think I'm trying to do that and allow myself the space to fail, try things, learn things, listen to things, and just like, okay, I'm not going to learn it all. No one knows it all. Even the people that are czars, so to speak, of AI, they don't know it all.
Yeah.
And that like uncomfortable, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that for me, this is the first time in my life I've really been at Icarus. I've got to fly close to the sun with this.
Thank you. I think certainly I can identify with that. I think most people can identify with that, and maybe just normalizing it. One, that everyone's feeling a little bit that way, or a lot of people are feeling that way.
Yeah.
And then we'll be on our own journey to kind of get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Thank you so much, William. I'm so glad that we got to do this, and I hope we get to do it again.
100%. I'm here whenever you're ready.
All right.
Just a phone call away.
Thank you for listening to The Courageous Choice. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review to help get the word out about the podcast. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future conversations. If you'd like to know more about gig talent, please visit gigtalentagency.com or email us at podcast@gigtalentagency.com. See you in the next episode.